So this is probably going to be my second favorite episode. Most account directors treat their support resources the way most people treat their gym membership. They know it's there. They feel vaguely good about having it. Maybe they'll use it twice a month when things get desperate. And then they're always wondering why they're exhausted, under pipelined, and doing everything themselves. The reality is, you guys have an army. You're just not deploying it effectively. And today we're going to work on the tips and tricks to fix that. So the force multiplier stack is 5 resources, 1 operating system, and the new AEAD white space play that's going to really hopefully change how you think about every account in your territory. So 5 resources, every AD on this team has access to all 5. And based on our survey, most are using maybe 1 or 2 regularly and usually reactively and not strategically. So a couple things. We know most of this already, so I'll go through it quick, but Cory handles new business support. He is a very unique resource in that he handles full cycle PRN business from stakeholder mapping to pitches to SDR coordination. Tom owns multi-view expansion and white space inside existing accounts. Ben's going to be your defensive line, competitive threats, but also offensively can help you sell rooms and IR. But really, I look at Ben as kind of core protection. Michelle is your insights partner. She's the kind of person who can walk into a room with a bunch of key stakeholders and immediately be the smartest person in it. And then, of course, you have your SolCon, Slim, Jeff, Sarah. These are your pre-sales SEAL Team 6, building custom demos that are designed to really advance the deal forward. So 5 resources, 1 rule. They only work if you actually deploy them. So I want to talk a little bit about how to actually brief each partner, because a vague ask gets a vague result and a specific ask gets something that moves deals. So look, Cory is a perfect example of bringing him into zero penetration accounts, white space accounts, competitive situations. He can help build decks. He can help approach contacts cold that we've never worked with before. He can literally pitch with you. You can call him up and be like, Cory, I need you to be in Denver with me in 2 weeks. He'll fly out. He'll run the sales cycle with you. So that's Cory. Tom, I see Tom is a perfect example of someone who can bring him into accounts where consumption has flatlined or maybe white space is visible. Give him the account, the renewal timeline, what you need, a VBR, a white space analysis, a reframe, and he can help build the business case. Ben, bring him competitive threats the moment you smell them, ideally not 30 days before the renewal. Also be proactive about competition. Even if there is no competition, let's just assume that Globe's going to come in and undercut us by 50%. So it's about putting that perspective together so that the value perception of PR Newswire is always more than a 50% discount. Michelle's perfect to bring in your insights buyers before they hear from a competitor. She can do unsolicited perspective piece, lead discovery conversations. She hosts these amazing workshops that I'm sure a lot of you have brought her into, but we need to do a lot more of those. And then for SolCons, we'll talk about them in the next slide because they kind of deserve their own moment. SolCons, get their own slide because what they do, one, is kind of qualitatively different from the other partners. And 2, I think most ADs are wildly underutilizing the leverage that they create. So step 1, SolCons, you have to feed them well. You have to give them the actual brand names, the competitor set, the use cases that you uncovered during discovery. The more specific your input, the more powerful the demo. So the customer stops seeing a product walkthrough. They start seeing kind of their own world inside the platform. We've all experienced a really well-oiled custom demo. It works great, but a lot goes into it. So the more data points we can give the SolCons, the better. Step 2, a lot of people miss this one. Scale the vertical. So once a SolCon builds a CPG demo environment for Amazon, and this is the part that most ADs miss, that environment doesn't disappear after the meeting. I would be screenshotting it. I would be bringing it to every other CPG customer in my book across the Western region, whether that first account buys it or not. The work that goes into that custom demo is done. So every CPG prospect that you touch now gets a hyper relevant demo without SolCon having to build the entire demo from scratch. Step 3 is the network effect. I would also hand those screenshots to your SDR pod as meeting bait. I built something specifically for CPG brands. Mr. Insights Director at Insert Your CPG Brand of Choice would love to schedule 20 minutes. Oh, by the way, we've been working with your corporate communications team for the last 5 years. So it's warm, it's a specific hook. We can leverage hyper customized screenshots from a custom demo build. And here's the one that protects renewals. So SolCons can actually pull data across products to build a value case too. So let's say you got a PRN customer who is, for whatever reason, struggling to see the ROI of a press release. A SolCon can run a search intelligence report to determine whether or not PR Newswire is driving traffic, and if it is driving traffic, to what extent. That's a very powerful piece of ammunition that you could leverage to go into a quote unquote utilization conversation or PRN workshop to basically show that, hey, PR Newswire is driving an X% of traffic to your website. So there's a ways to just really amplify your SolCon stuff. Let's talk about your SDR pod for a second. So your SDR pod's not a cold calling machine. I would argue that they're much better designed for multi-threading, and the quality of the information that you give to them increases the propensity of them to deliver better results for you. So here's an example of what a good brief to your SDR pod would look like. Let's say that you're going to Denver for a territory sweep. You're meeting with the VP of corporate communications at Acme, a Denver company. They use PR Newswire, they use Cision One. You have zero engagement with their social team, insights team, their SEO team. You tell your SDR, hey, help me out with contact mapping, push BCR, push brand watch, mention I'm going to be in the building, book me at least one adjacent meeting before I fly in. So that brief takes you 3 minutes to write. Your SDR now has everything that they need on the account. They have the context, they have a product angle, they have an anchor meeting, a social proof, and they have a specific objective. So compare that to, hey, can you reach out to Acme Corp, which lacks detail. It's a waste of everybody's time. Specific in, specific out, generic in, generic out. I want to talk about something that I know is top of mind for a lot of people, which is account directors and account executives sometimes struggle to work together, but I think it's fundamental to understand the difference between the two. They're fundamentally different animals. Account directors are farmers. Your job is to manage, maintain, protect, renew, upsell, cross-sell across a book of 40, 50, 60 plus accounts. That's a full-time job. Your capacity is accounted for, and there's not a lot of capacity left over once you've done that and once you're doing that. AEs are sharks. They are built, trained, and incentivized to hunt. They're fast twitch, pipeline obsessed. Their quota depends entirely on finding and closing new business. They also have the tools for it, they have the skills for it, and the mandate for it. They have a ton of tools for it, the skills for it, and the mandate for it. And here's what most ADs miss. Account executives are not responsible for managing existing accounts. Their capacity solely exists specifically for the kind of penetration work that's been sitting untouched in a lot of your book and a lot of your long tail piece of your book. So the objection that we hear a lot when we talk about this partnership is that, you know, I have to split the revenue 50-50. It doesn't feel right. Here's my pushback, and here's really the reframing that I think we need to think about. You don't have the capacity to chase white space in your book, and especially your long tail accounts. The AE does. So the actual comparison is not 100% versus 50%. It's really 100% of zero because nobody goes after it versus 50% of revenue that never existed before. In short, under leveraging the AEs in your orbit is probably one of the most expensive mistakes you'll make. And I would highly encourage us to do it. Closing argument. You're not a solo act. Again, you're a general. And the ADs who miss quota are the ones writing their own decks at 9 p.m. They're sending their own cold emails. They're doing their own research. And they're wondering why the pipeline is thin and they're burning out. 3 things this week. 1 specific partner ask, framed properly. 5 accounts, identify white space. And 1 AE conversation to really go activate the play. You have an army at your disposal. Episode 6 is about the AI layer that sits on top of all of this. In other words, the tech stack that turns a good day into a great one. The links are below. We'll see you in the next episode.